Hi, this is Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and we have come to that point where we're going to be putting all of our squares together. How exciting is that? Okay, I've gone ahead and I've taken quite a few minutes to kind of do different arrangements of these squares to see how I like the way the colors are and how they look, you know, side by side and all that. And it just so happens that the color of the rug that I'm putting them on is the same color as the trim that I put around the edging. So that was really helpful to me, kind of cheating maybe for some of you, but hey, it works, right? So I just wanted to show you the color arrangement. Let me move out of the way. Pardon that pillow on the floor over there. Just wanted to show you the color arrangement that I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and include in the pattern kind of a, you know, a single letter, like for square, I guess using numbers, just number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and I will show you the order that I went in case some of you are trying to follow what I do exactly. But I just want you to be freed up to do whatever you want. I know some of you are using solid colors, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those. And I've seen some amazing colors. Some of you have posted on Facebook, and I just so really love watching your comments and seeing how you're progressing on this. Okay, so let's. This is the big picture. So let's go ahead and get up close and personal for how we're going to put these together. All right, let's go. Okay, let's go ahead and put some of these squares together. I'm just going to show you an example of 2 for now. And what I've determined is you know, where my stitches are, where the first and last stitches, because I want them all to be kind of upright in the same direction. You don't have to do it this way, but this is just the way that I've chosen to do it. Your squares they should be all relatively square, so it really doesn't matter how you do it, but just let you know that I am taking care to make sure that all the stitches are going in the same direction. I think this is going to help a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to have the back sides facing. Okay, the back. So when you put these together, you should be able to see the front sides. And the stitch that I'm going to connect these with are one that I've used a lot for connecting squares, and it's using the knurl stitch or the reverse single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this, and I will show you some alternatives to this if you don't like using this stitch or perhaps find it too difficult. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is find those chain 2 corners. I'm going to stick my hook in both of them. Oh, and before I do that, I am using the size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, which is the smaller of the hooks. It's the same one that I've used to do the edging, the last 2 perimeter rounds. Okay, so I'm going to stick that into both of the chain 2 corners. I'm going to pull this yarn through. I'm going to have a nice little, you know, long tail here, and I'm going to do a slip knot. But in order to do that, I'm going to put both strands. I'm going to wrap both strands around the hook, and then I'm going to pull as hard as I can because I don't want this to come undone. Okay, I am not going to work anymore for what we're doing on the connection on these 2. I'm not going to work anymore in that chain 2, but I'm going to make my first knurl stitch by working through the first stitch of each square. Now, in order to do the knurl stitch, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to put my hook in that first stitch, and this is really the more difficult. And then finding the first stitch on the red square happens to be where I connected that perimeter round, so I have to carefully do that. And then we're going to do that all the way across. Go to the next stitch of both squares. Okay, the next stitch. We're going through both loops. Oops, let me try that one again. I know this is a little difficult to see with darker yarns. It's good to use a darker yarn for the perimeter round because darker yarns do tend to hide a multitude of sins, so to speak, when it comes to crochet issues and mistakes. But it is harder to show up in videotaping, and it's also why you don't see a lot of dark yarns featured in photographs in magazines and such, is because it's really hard to see the designs. But up close, when you're not photographing them and you're just enjoying them in your home, they're fine. Okay, so I'm just working this very carefully, this knurl stitch. If you've never worked a knurl stitch, I would recommend giving it a little bit of a practice, maybe on a practice swatch, or you could just jump in with this. It can be a little tricky. It's usually trickier for seasoned crocheters than it is for beginners, because beginners don't know to be afraid of a lot of these things, and they just jump in and sometimes accomplish them without realizing that they've done something really difficult. But for a crocheter who's crocheted for many years, this is very counterintuitive. But go ahead and give it a try and take your time. I know I'm talking a lot right now as I crochet across this row, but this is the place where having the correct number of stitches along the perimeter round really makes a difference. And once we finish this, we're going to have 46 stitches. We are connecting at the chain 2, and as you'll see in just a second, we're going to end in the chain 2. We're not going to leave a knurl stitch there. We're just going to use that for connecting and ending. Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish doing these 46 stitches, and then I'll show you the last stitch. Let me go ahead and, before I do that, let me just show you a little bit of what this looks like. After lining up each single crochet across with the knurl stitch, I'm going to work the last stitch is actually going to be a slip stitch. I put it into the chain 2 of both stitches. I pull it through and then pull the loop through. Give it a nice firm tug so that there's no extra yarn there, and give it a chain, give it another tug. And I'm going to go grab my scissors right over here, and I'm going to give it a nice long tail so that it'd be easy to put that to hide that later on. So this, I wanted to show you how this looks. Okay, so this is a nice raised texture that will add interest to the afghan or to the throw, and will, you know, put it together quite nicely. Now, if this looks too difficult or you find that this is too cumbersome for you to do, I want to show you a couple of alternatives. I realize that this dark yarn is hard to see, so I'm going to work that again just as a demonstration using a contrasting color yarn. Okay, so let me go ahead and start that again. I find the chain 2 corners, pull the yarn through. I'm going to put both strands over the hook and then pull them through. Give it as tight a tug as you can, and we don't want that to be, you know, loose in any way. And we're going to come back into this first single crochet and also the first single crochet of the stitch, yarn over and pull through. Go through. Notice I'm going to go through 4 strands, 2 of this square and 2 of that square, and I just pull it through, yarn over. Okay. Notice with the contrasting color yarn, you see more what the yarn is doing. And of course with the dark yarn, you're not going to see any of this. It's going to blend in very well. Okay. Don't try to think of what the strands are doing. Just go through the motion. Don't try to control or manipulate the strands here. If you try to do that, you'll drive yourself crazy, and each one will look different. I promise you, I've done it. So that's basically the knurl stitch with that contrasting yarn. Now let me give you some other options in case this just becomes impossible or frustrating or, you know, over the top for you. I do encourage you to give it a try, but if not, let me show you some other options. The one crocheted option, kind of like a plan B if the knurl stitch doesn't work, is I would start on the right side of the squares, and I'm going to use the contrasting yarn again just because I think it just works a lot better. And go ahead and give that a starting slip stitch there, and you can work through both of the stitches, and then you can work a slip stitch across. Now
obviously you're going to see, you know, big contrast with this yarn, but if you're using the darker yarn, it will not stand out so much. And this is the way that would look. Okay, not quite as decorative or as interesting as the knurl stitch, but it is a possibility. Okay, and that's another possibility. And let me show you. Another option is just to use your yarn needle and use the whip stitch. I'm just going to show that to you using a single strand, but you can double the yarn if you want as you do this. I'm obviously not going to knot this because I'm going to be using something else, but I'm going to just as a demonstration to show you what I mean by the whip stitch. Going in through both stitches and just give it a pull. Now I'm doing this with the front sides up. You might want to work this with the front sides facing so that this part that I'm showing you is on the back side. Again, not as decorative as the knurl stitch, but this is an option in case the others just don't work out. Okay, we can use the whip stitch. Okay, let me show you one last way. Actually, you may be able to think of others that I haven't shown you, and by all means, you know, feel free to do what you need to do. But one thing you can do is just do a simple single crochet to single crochet them together. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like just by working through both loops, going from right to left. And again, just lining up those stitches and working them through. And that is another possibility. It actually looks similar to the slip stitch, but a little beefier stitch. So that's an option. I do hope the knurl stitch works out for you. Okay, once you've done five of these squares, you know, in a row or in a column, then you want to grab the next 5. I recommend you do five of these squares in a column and do a total of 4 columns. Okay, once you have 4 lines of these, then I would crochet the columns down one of the sides all the way down, and you would only have 3 large seams in that case.
Okay, I've moved back out to my living room to show the next thing. Once we've sewn all of these together into 4 columns, just doing these individual short stitches, we're going to take each of these columns and I'm going to put them together, front side facing, and I'm going to start all the way on the left side in this left corner, and I'm going to work my knurl stitches all the way across from the left to the right, and I'm going to work 46 stitches across each square. When you come to the corners, I would work 1 in each corner, so you're going to have a corner here and then another corner right beside it. Just go right on through and finish it in that way all the way to the end. And each time, of course, you're going to be adding another long column. And once you go ahead and do that, then come join me and we'll show you the perimeter round around the entire afghan or throw, and then I'll show you the edging that I'm going to use. Okay, let's go. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work a single crochet edging all the way around the perimeter. You can start anywhere really along the edge, or you can start in the corner. It's whatever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and start mine in the chain 2 corner
I'm going to single crochet in the corner and in each stitch all the way across each square. When I get to the corners of each of the square, I'm going to work a single crochet in each of those corners as well. This is really important. This is going to take the stitch count from 46 up to 48 for each square all the way across. Okay, it's really going to be important that you keep that across each of, especially across the bottoms when we come back after we complete this round and work the finish edging. Okay, along the bottom, total, along the sides that have the 4 squares, you should have 156 stitches. Then you're going to have the chain 2 corner, and then you're going to work along the side long ways where you have the 5 squares. Where you have the 5 squares, you'll have 240 stitches. Now, when you're working along the sides, you don't have to, count every single stitch. As long as you put 1 stitch in each stitch as you go, you're going to be fine with this. Okay, if you've kept the stitch count consistent on these squares, then you will be fine. After you do that, come on back and I will show you the next step in how to work the finishing edge. I'm going to go ahead and finish one end of the edge and show you what that looks like, and then show you how to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and do this next thing. Okay, now that we're done going all the way around the perimeter using single crochet, and that would be with the front side facing, okay, I went ahead and I did one end of the throw. I still have a lot of strings to hide, but I wanted to show you the design before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of how to do this along the edge. Okay, I'm going to show you up a little bit. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit closer what I did here. Okay, here's a closer view of the trim that I chose. Okay, and this consists primarily of 4 post stitches. These are using front post and back post double crochets, and then the 4 post cable that you should already be familiar with. That was back on block number 1 or square number 1. Okay, and then for the final row, I just finished the edging with 8 treble crochets, and I'll show you, more specifically how to work those. And these are worked, in the center of the 2 stitches here, and then anchored in between, or right in the center of these post stitches. Okay, now for any reason you don't like what I've done here and you want to end it with another preferred edging, you are totally free to do that, and I actually look forward to seeing some other ideas that you may have come up with. To complete all of this, the yarn that connects and the yarn that went around each square, I used approximately 3 scans of the Red Heart Super Saver. So I think I was a little under on the estimated yarn at the beginning of this mystery throw. I apologize for that. However, this was a total mystery for all of us, to be honest with you. So anyway, let me go ahead and I'll show you how to begin adding this edging. Okay, we're going to begin by working with the wrong side or the back side of the throw facing us. And we're going to find that chain 2 corner that we made during the perimeter round, and I'm gonna join, and I'm gonna use both strands over as I make that little join chain slip stitch thing, and I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm not going to work in this turning chain, but I'm going to begin my double crochets all the way across, working in starting with the first single crochet and working in each stitch across. Okay. When I get to the very end, you will work your last stitch, which will be a double crochet. We will work that in the chain 2. Okay, so that will give us, let me get the total for you. That will give us a total of 193 stitches. So that does not include the joining turning chain here. We're going to work in that as we come back, as you'll see. But we need to make sure that you're going to have, not counting this stitch, there should be 193 double crochets all the way across the end of the throw. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what to do next. I probably should also mention that I am using my size I, or 9, or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. This is the smaller of the hooks. So I'm continuing to use that as I complete this. Okay, I've worked these double crochets all the way across. I just wanted to show you that I'm going to work a double crochet in that chain 2 corner across there. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn, and we're going to chain 2. All right, this is becoming quite a challenge because it's so large here. So to begin, row 2, we're going to chain 2, and we're not going to work this end stitch. We're going to work in the next 2 stitches. We're going to work in each of these stitches a front post double crochet. Okay, this, and then the double front post double crochet in the next stitch. Do be careful. These are front post double crochets. It's going to be kind of hard to see with this dark color. But the next 2 stitches, we're actually the next 4 stitches are going to be treble crochets. We're going to begin the crossing of the cables with that 4 post cable. We're going to skip the next 2, and we're going to work a front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. This shouldn't be a learning curve here. You should know how to do these already. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble crochet in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, now notice that we only did 2 stitches here on the end to begin, and you're going to do this at the end. The last 2 stitches you will work only 2, but in the meantime, in between that, after you work that 4 post cable, we're going to work 4 front post double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to have you do this all the way across. Let me bring this camera up a little bit, and I'll just do that one more time for you. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in those 2 skipped stitches, and then in the next 4 stitches we do front post double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're worried at all about the height difference, you don't need to be, because when we come back with the next row, that will work its way out. So go ahead and work this all the way across to the last 2 stitches. Okay, that brings us to the last 2 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and just, this is following the 4 post cable right here. I'm going to work a front post double crochet in the last 2 stitches. Now in this turning chain, I'm going to just work right through that large hole, and I'm going to work a half double crochet. Now I'm going to turn. This is now with the back side facing. I'm going to chain 2 stitches, and I'm simply going to work back post double crochet all the way across the row. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Back post double crochet all the way across the row, and then work a half double crochet in that turning chain when you get to the end. Now I'm going to just do a few stitches here, and I'm going to show you what it's starting to look like. Let me go ahead and finish a couple more, because the rest of it is pretty straightforward. Okay, so what you're going to do now, that would be row number 1, 2, 3. So rows 4, 5, 6, and 7, are going to simply be repeating rows 2 and 3. Okay, so you're going to, after you complete row 3, you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 2 more times. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you row number 8, which will be the final finishing touch for this. Okay, now for the last row, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in that very first stitch. Okay, now this is going to be not tricky at all, but let me be very clear about where I want you to put these stitches. Okay, we're going to skip the next 2. Actually, skip 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, which would bring you to the center of the 4-post cable, and we're going to work 8 treble crochets, and this is where I want you to put them right in the center of that cable. It's not working through the top loops, but right in the center of the stitches in between the second and third stitch of that 4-post cable. So we're going to go ahead and work 8 treble crochets. Okay, I've got 4, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I hope you can see the color a little bit better against the wood surface rather than the white board. Okay, so I have 8, and so now I'm going to skip the next 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. So you have 2 stitches, which was part of that cable, and then 2 of the front post or back post stitches here, and then we're going to work a single crochet, and again go right between those. See the 4 stitches here, go right in the center, go right down here and do that single crochet, and then we're going to do that all the way across. We're going to skip the next 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, and right in the center of that cable work 8 more of what they call the shell stitch. Okay, so that's 4. I'm going a little fast, but these are just treble crochets. That's 6, 7, and 8. Skip 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in between that space right there, make a single crochet. So this is the way it's looking. Okay, so go ahead and work that all the way across. When you get to the end, you're going to work your single crochet in the very last chain 2 turning space. I'll go ahead and do that with you in just a minute. Okay, I've worked this shell stitch all the way across, and I just wanted to show you the last stitch. We skipped the next 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, and you can just go right in to this turning chain and work that last single crochet, and go ahead and make a chain, give it a tug. This is the final stitch. I'm going to go ahead and cut a strand, leaving a nice 4 to 5 inch minimum string so that it will be easy to hide. Okay, pull that through. Okay, let me give you a better view of this. Okay, so here is the finished edging. So technically we are finished with the crochet part of our project, but there is one last thing to do, and we need to do this many times over, and that is hiding all these loose strands. And if you're like me, you've probably got at least 100 of them staring at you. Okay, hopefully mostly on the back side. I just wanted to show you a quicker way to hide these if you don't have a method already. I like to use my yarn needle to hide these, and working on the back side, I'm going to go ahead and run these under stitches. There's no particular rule as to what order you do this in, but I'm going to run this particular stitch under all the 8 shell stitches. That should hide it sufficiently. But you can just hide them under, you know, all the stitches as best you can. And pull it through. It just makes it so much easier using this yarn needle. And then after I do that, I get my scissors and very carefully cut. Make sure you don't cut your stitches. And that stitch has been hidden quite well. So now I got about 99 to go. I just want to thank you for sticking with me. We are pretty much done, except for hiding those 99 strands that remain to be hidden. If you enjoyed this and this type of styling of cabling crochet, please check out my website at bonniebaecrochet.com, and I do have a page that lists many other different patterns. Some are free, some are books, and some are leaflets, and they vary in price, but I just want to encourage you to check those out. Maybe there's something that you would like to make for a gift or for yourself at some point. Anyway, it's been my joy. God bless. Bye-bye.